Hey ladies and gents, welcome to my gameplay review of eFootball 2022 version 1.1.1. I'm not discussing any new features here or anything like that around Season 2. I am just purely focusing on the gameplay changes. Now if you're wondering how I keep track of all the gameplay elements for my reviews, it's because I use an Excel spreadsheet which I'll share towards the end of this video, and it just helps me keep a track of what's improved since the HQ version, what's remained the same, and also what's got worse since the last update. It's interesting how my initial impression perhaps differs slightly from this review after much further testing. So let's just talk about the first touch, which is definitely an upgrade on version 1.1, but I still don't feel like it's as good as version 1. Random touches, especially during a sprint, can lead to running the ball out of play even though you've released sprint. Which brings me to my next point, sprinting with the ball. I'm not sure if they're playing around with this, which is causing the first touch issues, but I've noticed it's impacting the gameplay. So for those who reassigned it to R1, it'd be great to hear if you're struggling with the defending aspect, because I imagine you're running at full speed, whereas with R2 it gives you that greater control of your sprint speed. So if you do have any issues like that, then let me know down in the comments, because I'd love to get your sort of feedback. Passing overall has much improved over version 1.1 and is definitely got that sort of feeling back to version 1, I would say, with less random stray passes, less punishing for those on level 3, whereas those on level 2 and level 1 remain unaffected. I've not done any firmware testing because it just adds another variable and would make my reviews far more convoluted and far more complex to pull together. So not talking about firmware today, I'm afraid. Crossing has remained much the same for the past 3 versions, also including the stunning variety. Close range shots is still, exceptionally frustrating, especially with assisted shooting, as they tend to miss every time you're close up to goal. Even if you aim in the middle of the goal, even if you've got first time player shot skill, I'm really starting to wonder if, Lewandowski can put them in for 1.2 million. Because if he is, then maybe that's where and why he's worth so much. Finesse shots, volleys, stunning shots and chip shots all remain much the same. Player movement with the left stick when you have the ball at your feet feels much improved over version 1, but I don't still feel like it's as nice as it was in version 1. Skill responsiveness is still very good and hasn't changed since version 1, and the same could be said about the AI skill frequency, so how often they perform skills with tricky players feels and looks so good and very natural in all the right areas of the pitch. When it comes to the AI reading your skills in the penalty box, the balance feels just right. Player selection is much improved, and the stop-start action, while still visible, doesn't feel half as bad as it did in version 1 or also including version 1.1. So it looks like it is a high priority on the list for Konami to address, which is great to see. Right stick player selection feels like it's the best it's been since the HQ version. No changes whatsoever to the goalkeepers, and I just love them how they are right now. I don't want them saving every long shot, so the balance for me feels just right. They feel, they've got that human element about them. They can let in the odd mistake, a deflected shot, as you're going to see in my killer formation video against France in the 3-2-3-2 video, so check that out because that is definitely worth not missing. Player movement without the ball, so I've already talked about player movement when you have the ball. Player movement without the ball using the left analytic isn't all that great in my opinion. Better than version 1.1, but still not as good as version 1. Version 1 is still a little bit better in my opinion in all aspects. Player reaction time to loose balls feels like an improvement, as I mentioned just a minute ago, possibly to do with Konami trying to adjust this or address the stop-start animation that has plagued eFootball 2022. Player weightiness still feels really bad from version 1.1 and not as good as it did in version 1. Players still have that tanky feeling, but again, it's not quite as bad as version 1.1. If I scored the gameplay for version 1 and I gave that a 5 out of 10, and version 1.1 I gave that a 3 out of 10, I think a 4 out of 10 would be a fair reflection for this latest version of eFootball 2022. Still, my view remains the same. The game is going in the right direction, and I still like the vision that Konami have chosen. As long as I turn a blind eye to the Master League and other lack of game modes missing. Before I go, I just want to share this spreadsheet with you guys, so you can see that I'm checking with every release and how I've scored it. So what we have here is we have the categories on the left hand side, we have the builds across the top, including the HQ build that I tested at Konami, along with the other builds, the horrendous 0.9.0 build, all the way to 1.1.1, which is the latest build. Then we have the, like I said, the different categories. So under graphics, we have lighting, turf, player faces, crowd detail close up, crowd detail from a distance, so on and so forth. So those are the categories that we're scoring, and here is the scoring mechanism. So 0 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. So you can just get a feel for it if I just scroll down ever so slowly. So we got the attacking controls, which is probably, you know, the graphics haven't changed much recently in the last 3 builds. So, you know, we're just looking at the attacking abilities. You know, shielding remaining much the same. Like I said, I touched on the first touch there. You know, it was a 6 in version 1, it's now a 5, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to literally just scroll down just so you can see the things I've scored, and if I can just point out some perhaps ones where I've got comments, which will help me point out some things that I perhaps dislike, you know, like headers from close range. Same for shooting. When you're sort of 2 yards out, unless they're stunning headers, you know, you tend to find your players missing. I find that if you're doing a normal cross, you've got to do a stunning header. If you're doing a stunning cross, you've got to use a normal header. And little things like this you sort of pick up along the way on how to hit the target more frequently. You know, things like this. Love how, you know, skills can be performed in the penalty box and the AI don't read them every single time. Unlike PES 21, which was just horrific. It just, like, as soon as you got to the penalty box, there's no point using the skills in PES 21 when you're facing the AI, especially on legend difficulty. You know, things like this, the standing tackle, I feel like it's useless right now because the matchup button's still overpowered. It has been lessened, and that's why I like it a little bit more than version 1.1 and version 1. But it's still a little bit overpowered. It's still my go-to way of tackling, intercepting passes, and everything like that. So I think they need to sort of improve the standing tackle and the shoulder charge, and perhaps lessen the overpoweredness of the matchup. But there's more chance of a foul now with the matchup since version 1 and 1.1. Moving on down, you know, there's all aspects covered here. There's quite a lot to get through, to be honest. So if I just keep scrolling, we talk about other aspects. So we talked about the attacking, we've talked about the defensive side of things, and now we're talking about other things that perhaps don't relate to either of those, such as player positioning, off the ball movement, player reaction time, collisions, ball physics, player ID, and player weightiness, and referee accuracy. And then right at the bottom, I've got overall thoughts and score, and then you can see my sort of feelings about each each build. And look at this, 0.9.0, the one I absolutely just died on. A tragic and buggy mess. Couldn't believe what I saw after playing the HQ version months earlier. And then here we have it. This is my sort of scoring. So version 1, like I said, was given a 5 out of 10, 3 out of 10 for 1.1, and a 4 out of 10 for 1.1.1. Marked improvement over 1.1.0, but some way off version 1 in my opinion. I'm not an Excel whiz, so don't have any sort of weighted scoring system to give me a final score. That final score is just a gut feeling. Anyway, thank you for watching my review. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to smash that like button. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button. I'm purely optional, but would love it if you joined my army of SpoonyPizzas by hitting that join button. Again, I love you guys no matter what you decide. That's all from me. Thanks for joining, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Take care. Bye bye.